My name is Clodagh. It's an Irish name. Okay.
Hello, today we are in Russborough House with Clodagh and we are going to ask you some questions. Why is the house called Russborough House?
Okay, this house is called Russborough House because locally in Wicklow, that area down by the River Liffey was Russellstown. That was a town down there called Russellstown. And the house is called Russell after Russellstown, but the borough is the area around Russellstown. So Russborough is the area of Russell. Okay?
Okay.
The name from a man.
Why is the house a top tourist attraction?
Well, it's one of Ireland's finest Palladian houses. It's built in 1741 and it hasn't been altered or changed. It's still in its original state 300 years later. It also houses the most wonderful paintings.
What is the most valuable painting in the mansion?
Well, I would probably have to say the Goya, wouldn't I? But actually, these paintings were stolen. The major paintings were stolen out of the house. And before the second robbery, I would think the most valuable painting would have been the Dutch master Vermeer. There's only actually 32 in the whole world, and I think this was the only one besides the Queen's one in the private collection. So that's now in the National Gallery.
Why are the most famous paintings exhibited in the National Gallery and not in Russborough House?
That's a good follow-on question, isn't it? Well, Sir Alfred and Lady Bite were alive and living in this house until their death. The second robbery happened in 1986, and they were quite old. And this was the second robbery. So for security reasons, they didn't want to be vulnerable again to being beaten up or tied up or robbed again. So for security reasons, they wanted the nation to see these beautiful paintings. They put them into the National Gallery. Okay.
Has there ever been a fire?
There has. There was a fire a long, long time ago when the Milltowns, the first family, lived here, and the pond up at the back allowed the water gravity feed down to put it out. And then more recently, in 2010, there was a fire in the roof of the West Wing. But there was no structural damage, and it was all repaired, and they've now converted the West Wing, which used to be for the servants, the two wings were for the servants originally, now they're apartments, 2 apartments.
Was there a lot of damage?
No, because both the times the robbery happened in 1974 and then in 1976. They wanted to sell these paintings or hold them up as ransom. They were no good to the robbers if they were damaged because they would have been devalued. So thank God there was no damage done to these paintings like Velázquez and Goya. They were very special paintings. My favourite was the Moorish kitchen made by Velázquez, and that's still in the National Gallery in Dublin. And the Guardis, beautiful paintings. Okay, any more?
Yes.
Super.
What famous people have stayed in the house?
Oh, well, you'll see downstairs if you go to the museum, Mick Jagger. You know Mick Jagger?
No.
The Rolling Stones. I'm showing my age. Charlie Chaplin from the old movies. Coco Chanel, the fashion lady from Paris. Loads and loads and loads of very famous people stayed here. Sir Alfred and Lady Bite, because I worked here when they were alive. I worked in 1982 to 86 here, and they had very grand dinners. They would have butlers, they would export, they would actually get wines from France or Italy if the people liked, or Spain, if the people liked it. So they had very important and salubrious company here for their dinners. Yes?
Was there a robbery here?
There were 4 robberies, but actually the 2 main ones were 1974 and 1986. The other 2 were in the 90s, and they were not successful, thank goodness. But after the 1986 robbery, the paintings, when they were recovered, never came back to Russborough House. Those paintings were gifted to the National Gallery. Can you imagine paintings worth 40 million, one painting? The National Gallery could not have afforded one painting, let alone 17 masters. So the National Gallery really benefited from this fabulous house. But we still have lovely paintings here that were in their private collection. Okay?
And last question, were the paintings recovered?
All the paintings were recovered. Eventually. It took a long time, especially from the General's robbery, the 1986 robbery, because he was able to listen into the police walkie-talkie system. So he hid them in the Dublin Mountains, and he was called the General because he was a very organised robber. But the trouble was all his lieutenants were getting impatient for their money from the robbery. So he started getting desperate, and he started trying to sell them to people who weren't very good people, and he got shot for his troubles. So that was the end of that, and they got the paintings back. So thank you for interviewing me about Russborough House, and you're all very welcome here. Did you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah, you're great, you're brilliant. Okay, what's your name?
Laura.
Laura. And what's your name?
Jimena.
Jimena. They're beautiful names.
Thank you.
You see the way my name is spelled with the GH? That's the Irish spelling. So it's not Claudia, it's Cloda.
Oh.
Yeah. Although I like the way you say it. I love the way the Spanish say it.